I do apologise, everybody. Welcome to episode 250 today of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A, where your questions, of course, really do drive the show. Today, we're going to be discussing how to become a project manager. It's the second, actually, in our series on this topic, as we explore one of the most rewarding careers with our panel of experts. And what a milestone to reach. 250 episodes over the last 3 years is fantastic. So congratulations to everybody involved in the design, development, and of course in the production of the shows. And all of the followers online, we really appreciate you joining us on Mondays and Fridays. More on that actually coming a little bit later towards the end of the show, so do stay with us to hear the updates. If you're watching on YouTube, then you may of course find out so much more about what we do at APMG in our channel. So do give this video a like, please, and subscribe to find out so much more. Ella today, if you're joining us live, is over in the social chat. So she's going to be posting some questions and links for you to vote up the ideas and the thoughts and the questions that you would most like the panel to answer. And of course, for you to be able to add your own as well, which is really helpful. Okay. If your question's selected, then your name's going to appear in the credits at the end of the show. So do get yours in early and stay with us to see all of that happening. So let's jump straight in and meet our expert panel today. Bina Champaneria rejoins, of course, today, a familiar face to everybody. She's an accredited project management trainer herself, whose work's included things like IT systems development and the adoption of that new software all over the world. With project experience within the university and marine environments, Bina is a trusted coach and mentor to many of her clients from the worlds of fashion, retail, construction, and other industries. Welcome back, Bina.
Thank you very much, Nick. It's great to be back, and I'm really looking forward to having some really good discussions. So thanks for everybody joining.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Christina Sejr Pedersen rejoins today. She is, of course, an award-winning executive director of the Half Double Institute and co-founder of the methodology that shares that name, Half Double itself. With a passion to help improve project performance all over the world, Christina is determined to help the industry to improve outcomes across the board. Welcome back, Christina.
Thank you, Nick. Good to see you again, and good to see everybody on the panel. I'm looking forward to a informative and hopefully entertaining Friday afternoon.
Excellent. Thank you so much indeed. Darrel Popowich rejoins today. He's an expert in building and managing business relationships, coaching executives, and he is, of course, a regular contributor here on Level Up. With a deep background in IT and driving digital transformation projects, he works tirelessly to support communities around the world. And it's brilliant to have him back on the panel. Welcome back, Darrel.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, panel. This is going to be a great show. You know, project managers are a absolute critical component of any business transformation. And when you get it right, then that transformation has the ability to be successful. When you have disarray in the project management office, then there's absolutely no way a transformation can get to the other side. It'll just fail. So we're going to learn a lot about that today, I'm sure.
Absolutely true. Somebody who would share, I think, and that sentiment entirely is Mark Rozner. He's the founder and principal consultant at Sunrise Path LLC, who focus on project management in the healthcare sector, an active contributor to a wide range of professional communities around the world. Mark now shares his experience generously with others, mentoring and coaching colleagues to help them develop their careers. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you, Nick. It's great to be back. Wonderful panel alongside here, and just want to shout kudos out to the production team as always. I don't think they get enough of the kudos they do, but great production.
Yeah, it's certainly true, isn't it? From our technical direction through our talent management team and our social engagement staff, they all do a really exemplary job. So I agree with that. Thank you so much. Wijnand, he is, of course, lead trainer at Capgemini Academy, where he specializes in a wide range of project management methods and approaches. Very experienced practitioner in the field, working in both the corporate and the SME markets. Wijnand brings a pragmatic and experienced approach to helping his clients solve their business problems through projects. Wijnand, welcome back to Level Up.
Thank you, Nick, and I'm so proud to be on your 250th episode. I know you have come a long way with starting this and now having a very professional production. So I always enjoy looking at this, and I hope that all our viewers today are enjoying our panel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much indeed. Now, the show doesn't work without a question master, and I'm delighted to welcome back Charlotte Miller, who joins us today from the Thames Valley here in the UK. Charlotte, do you have any predictions of when the British summer will actually arrive and how long it will stay around for?
Well, I have a very special guest staying with me at the moment, and my heating is fully on because it's absolutely freezing. So I'm...
Okay. Never mind then. Never mind. We live in hope, everybody, for a warm English summer. It may arrive sometime soon. Let's see. One thing that has already arrived are a great set of questions. So let's jump straight in, Charlotte, if we may, and put our first question to the panel.
Thanks, Nick. It's a question from one of our panelists, Mark. Mark asks, how can someone new to project management gain the experience required to apply for roles where there is a requirement for previous experience?
Well, it's a kind of chicken and egg situation here, isn't it? You know, people want to hire experienced project managers, but at the same time, how do you get the experience if no one will give you the chance? Wijnand, why don't you start us off with your thoughts?
Well, there are two ideas, of course, Nick. First is just, as we said pre-show, fake it till you make it. So just say that you have the experience, but there's a slight chance that you might not live up to the expectations. So the other one is actually do up experience by working in a project management office, supporting project managers, supporting experienced project managers, and just participating as an assistant project manager or some role like that, in order to gain experience and see what a senior project manager does in certain situations.
Absolutely. Great advice there. Thank you so much indeed. Thank you, Wijnand, for getting us underway. Bina, your thoughts, please, and then we'll go to Darrel.
I think I would ask you to question yourself as to, are you actually new to project management? If you think back about the work that you do, you might not have a role title as a project manager, but do you have to get some work done within a certain time frame? You know, do you have to get some work done that meets some specific requirements? Do you have to communicate with people? Do you have to manage time and cost? If you're doing those things, then you're already working in a project. You might not have that role, but this is part of being a project manager, is managing that kind of work. So, you know, look at what you're doing now, what experience you've got, what strengths you've got, and what you've learned, and then reassess the situation.
Excellent advice. Thank you very much indeed, Bina. Darrel, your thoughts, and then we'll hear from Christina.
Boy, I'm just going to sound like I'm repeating the Mark and Bina. I remember back when I first started getting into project delivery and transformation, and that is exactly what those two things that I did. Is first, I asked to be a project coordinator. I just want to attend your project meetings and 1 hour a week of you getting ready for those project meetings, and how can I help? So find that opportunity in your existing organization to just support a project manager or two. And then as well, in your job, manage your work like a project. Practice on yourself. What is my scope, schedule, budget, quality, and practice reporting to your leader, your supervisor from a project perspective. And you're going to start demonstrating that experience out to the organization that you're in.
Thank you very much indeed, Darrel. Great advice there. Christina, your thoughts on this, and then we'll go to Mark.
Yes. As Darrel said, I agree with the previous answers. I want to add two things. First of all, you could attend some trainings. Some of the fundamentals, the foundational training from many providers do not require any previous requirements. So getting some kind of certification, starting some training would certainly be a good first step. Then maybe a little more philosophical. You know, some of the best project managers I know, they kind of stumbled into project management by accident. I call it the reluctant project manager. They often started maybe in a technical role. I've been surrounded by engineers most of my life. And then they showed some talent for leadership and ended up maybe in a technical tech lead in a project. And once they got the hang of that, they were given their first project as project manager, usually within a field where they also had some functional expertise. I think that's the best way to start. And then as you get comfortable in that, you can move to more general project management. But I think many of us here probably more or less stumbled into project management, either by mistake, or it was just the way it went. At least that's my experience.
And that kind of accidental project manager is something that creeps up on people, isn't it? You start doing it, you don't even know that you're doing it. And then over time, people perceive you as the project manager and start to ask you to manage more projects. So it's one of those very kind of slippery slopes, if you like, but it's a wonderful one once you're on that incline, if you're so disposed to that. So thank you so much indeed, Christina. Great advice there. Also thinking about how do you jumpstart that, with certification. We might come back to that in a moment. Mark, your thoughts? Where you asked the question, where would you begin?
Absolutely everything that everyone has already said. Those are great things to do. I think the only ones I would add is volunteering. Find yourself a nonprofit or not-for-profit. They're always doing projects. They're always looking for a hand. And you get to practice your craft and also be able to say you've done the work. Something you'll probably hear from me a couple times today is find a mentor who can help steer you into those opportunities. Either, as was said earlier, find something that you're currently doing that you could then projectify, as I like to say. Those are, it's finding the opportunities where they don't just sign themselves out.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, panel. And really echo the comments of everybody who's made a contribution so far, and especially encourage people to have a look online on our website and look at the various flavors of project management that you can consider, different methodologies and approaches. And if you have a little bit of a read through, then you'll soon be able to find, your first step on that road to become a certified project manager and in time, perhaps even a chartered project professional. We'll talk a little bit more about that, I think, later on in the show. In the meantime, let's jump over to social and see who we've got online today. Adrian Pine joins us. Wonderful to have you. Well, wonderful to have you joining us today, and lovely to see a gentleman who's able to multitask, both making homemade tomato sauce and also joining in with Level Up. So fantastic. Thank you, Adrian. Marvelous to see. We also welcome Shingi, who is currently working in Stoke-on-Trent, but is normally in Sussex. All right. So two lovely different parts of the world in the UK. So welcome, Shingi. Great to have you as part of our production team today, putting in ideas into the chat and joining in with the audience. And Robert Snyder joins. He is, of course, a regular contributor on the panel as well. So it's great to see you over in Europe, Robert. So welcome to the Netherlands. I think on Wijnand's behalf, I'm saying welcome to Robert, and Wijnand totally agrees as well. So it's great to have you actually over in Europe at the moment, Robert. So great to see you. Okay, very good. Charlotte, I can see lots of questions coming in. So let's move on. We'll put our next question to the panel, please.
I hope Robert is still there when I get there on Tuesday. Question from my favourite person's name, Jensen in Dublin in Ireland. What do you most enjoy about the project program manager role?
All right. So what do we really enjoy when we're in the kind of the leadership role, if you like, of being a project manager or a program manager? Christina, you've led a lot of projects. I'm sure some of them very challenging, others, perhaps a little bit more straightforward. What do you enjoy the most?
I would say I often have to convince some people on my technical staff to take a chance on project management, and they're quite worried about leaving sort of their functional area of expertise and they are considering whether to go into a functional management career or a project management career. And I tell them they get all the results without all the boring admin work, because you get to be a leader of people on a task, and you don't have to worry about people, going out on sick leave or vacation or all of those things that come with functional management. You get all the fun and none of the downside of leading great people. I think that's my main upside.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. There's a lot of day-to-day stuff, isn't there, when you're line managing, particularly
Yes.
a big team. There's a lot of stuff that needs thinking through, and big shout out to everybody who does that really, really well for their colleagues. So thank you for that. Bina, your thoughts, please, and then Wijnand.
I'll keep it simple. I just like to see things happen. You're making something happen. There's an idea on a piece of paper. You've got a team, so there's that whole teamwork aspect. So it's great to see the team working together, collaborating, being enthusiastic, and we're working together to make something happen, to make something realistic. From a piece of paper, we're bringing an idea to life. So a little example I can give to that is I've done a few sort of amateur dramatic kind of things, and you think of a script. You as a team, you read a script, and then you act out the parts, and then you make the play happen. So again, it's about bringing something to life. But I really like the aspect of the teamwork and variety. No project is the same, so it's a really interesting job. It does have its challenges, but there's a lot of rewards. But I think the people aspect of it is something that I really enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Bina. I know that you do that really, really well. So thank you for that. Wijnand, your thoughts, and then we're going to go to Darrel.
Yeah, well, I would like to say organizing chaos. When a project starts, nothing sounds easy, goes easy. The team is new. They need to get acquainted with each other. They need to become a team, actually. So making that happen, guiding the people that are actually doing the work, because the only thing I do is give a nudge here, give a nudge there, make a planning, see if that planning sticks with the team, or have the team adjust the planning. But there are so many aspects as a project manager which you're controlling or pulling strings and making people work together and listen to the result. And as Bina said, well, the end result, when it arrives and everybody's happy with that, well, you're over the moon, so happy. And I've done quite a few projects in different areas, and all those areas are reacting differently. If you go to a hospital, they don't care about projects, they care about the patients. And if you go to a machine factory, they care about the machines, not a project, but they want the new machine. So how do you control that? How you organize that? That is the fun in being a project manager.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That bringing that order out of chaos in the first place, and also adjusting our approach each time to, as you say, reflect the culture of the organization, so that the key motivator, the key driver is actually always front and central, to the project team. And that's acknowledged is such an important part of the success, isn't it? So Ella has just posted the same question to our audience in the social chat. So if you're online, everybody, we'd love to know your answer, okay, to the question, which is going to be, what do you enjoy most, all right, about the role of a project manager? Do let us know in the chat, and we'll reflect some of the best answers in a few moments. Let's go next, if we can, to Darrel, and then we'll hear from Mark.
Yeah, thanks. So for those that want to tap into their creative part of their mind, being a project manager is very, very adept at allowing you to feel like you've accomplished something, to be able to organize the chaos and what have you. But to get that serotonin, that dopamine hit of accomplishing tasks and getting something delivered successfully, that's a key part. And then as a career, the variety, the different projects that you get to participate in and lead, that's going to be satisfying to have a single career project manager, but to have so many different things to be able to go into. And then the third component, it is a career advancer. I would not have been able to get to my positions as CIO without diving into the deep end in some pretty complicated and tough projects. So, three components, really satisfying, but gives you that experience and that accomplishment that executives are looking for.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. On the old-fashioned game of snakes and ladders, a good project could be a fantastic ladder. It's like rolling a double six. It can really move your career forwards because you learn at the speed of light, and you're able to demonstrate to others as well that what your role was, how fundamental you were, if you like, in being able to deliver that additional value back to the organization. Thank you, Darrel. What a great way to describe it. And Mark, your thoughts, please. What do you really think about in terms of enjoyment from being a PM?
I love making smart people be able to do amazing things. I'll kind of capitalize on what Wijnand said in terms of healthcare, which is my background. And many of my projects, I am surrounded by many clinicians, people with MDs, PhDs, both multiple masters, epidemiologists, and statisticians, just a lot of really smart people where I am definitely not the smartest in the room, but I make the difference. I've walked into programs where they have tried to self-lead by the clinician and have not gotten the same results by actually bringing me in and having me help them move forward, think a little differently, bring the project management perspective, again, to quote the others as well, organize their chaos, and really see what's important to them. Because that's the thing that kept getting in their way, was nobody could agree what was important because they're all the top of their class. So I help to sort of level set as part of change management as well.
Thank you so much indeed. Excellent answers from everybody. I do feel it's a little bit like the conductor with the orchestra, is that you're surrounded by people who know their parts and probably play their instruments far better than you can. But nonetheless, somebody needs to bring them all together. And it's when everybody plays to the same tune and the same rhythm at the same time that you move the organization forward in a remarkable kind of way. Robert Snyder has contributed in the chat 3 actual answers. So thank you so much, Robert, about what he enjoys about being a project manager. Improving the customer experience is right up there, together with the employee experience as well. And of course, reducing that sense of frustration, exasperation, and so on, amongst stakeholders. So thank you, Robert. Great answer. And I did see a very succinct one a little early just pop up from Adrian Pine. Thank you so much. Thank you, Adrian. Love helping a team to fly. Doesn't that really just bring it to life for everybody? Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Let's move on then, Charlotte, if we can, and we'll take our next question to the panel.
Thanks, Nick. I believe this next question from Carl Jury Woods is connected to one of our panelists. They ask, how can you wade through all the different qualifications being offered and know what is right, and when you're new to the PM world?
Carl, it's a tricky one to navigate, isn't it? And I think one of the thoughts that folks had a little bit earlier on was to get close to somebody who's perhaps working in your industry, or somebody who has kind of been there and done that and these kinds of things, to act as a kind of a coach, if you like, or a mentor even. Bina, the list of certifications and qualifications, it seems to grow every day, really. How do you spot the ones that are really up there versus the ones that are just available?
Well, the point is that the market itself tells you what you need to have. So if you're in certain industries, you will probably find that the most used qualification is Prince 2 practitioner, because in building that is something mostly used. Governments often ask something else. I believe that in the UK nowadays, Praxis Framework is very up and coming in the government industry. So I would suggest that you look at what organizational part you are going to work in. Are you going to go into the retail industry or in government or in healthcare or whatever? And just ask around. What do you need to become a project manager within this industry? What is mostly asked? And then don't just keep on researching, just start doing.
Absolutely. I would absolutely echo that. It's all about getting on with things. And do have a look at Praxis Framework. I think it's praxisframework.org, which is a fabulous place to begin. You know, if you are looking for something that will be recognized by a wide variety of different people, whether they have a background in PMP or other qualifications, as Wijnand's just said, Praxis Framework is going to be a really useful start point in terms of value for you. And we'll get a little link up on the show momentarily to that qualification. Let's hear from Darrel, I think, if we may, and then we'll go to Christina.
You know, it's going to sound very similar to when you're take a look at the organizations and the job postings that you have in your area and see what the qualifications have. Repeatedly, there's regional and there's industry specific. And so having an understanding of that base for that particular target organization or target industry you're looking for, you need to have that because that's their frame of reference. And then I'm also going to suggest that you go and look at the other frameworks and pick one that differentiates and resonates in your mind, that ability to be a cream of the crop of a project manager and be able to articulate to the organizations and the people around you why you've picked that additional special project management discipline and what it's going to do for the organization and make projects more successful than they typically are.
Absolutely agree with that. You know, one of the things about if you just follow the crowd, you end up looking like the crowd. Okay, so somehow or another, yes, it's good to follow the crowd to a certain extent, but you also want to differentiate yourself as well. So it's kind of trying to navigate that and get that right. Thank you very much indeed, Darrel. Great advice. Christina, now you've been involved early in your career using other methods, and then there must have been a light bulb moment when you decided, you know what, actually I think there might be a better way of doing this, and you started to be one of the authors behind the half double project management method. If I can use that phrase, I may not have identified it fully there in that short sentence, but tell us a little bit about that. What was that light bulb moment, and you know, what is the right thing for people to do when they're starting out in their career to navigate this route?
Yeah. I think there are several questions in your question, Nick. I want to echo what my fellow panelists say. These are all good reflections. Look at your industry. Look at what makes the most sense to you. I'm not sure I would quite agree with take what everybody else is doing, because how are we going to evolve if everybody takes what everybody else is doing? And I want to say, I'm going to now shoot myself and APMG's foot at the same time. Nothing beats experience. The best way to become an experienced project manager is to do projects. Now, having some kind of training and qualification on the side as you learn is an important step. I've done that. But just trying to take it from a qualification is a little bit like learning about music by just reading the notes. You should listen to the music, or riding a bike by just reading about riding a bike. So when I look for qualifications, first of all, I would never take a qualification that is purely online, just with a lot of PowerPoints. Because project management is a practical discipline. Getting in a training room, trying the exercises, trying experiencing it on your own body, for me is crucial. And then to your second question, Nick, what was it that I found? I think, I think the community is coming around to it now. I think the new black in project management is what we call hybrid project management. PMI uses the word bespoke, fit for purpose. So I think looking for a qualification that combines the best things about more traditional or prescriptive project management like Prince2, and then the more agile Scrum elements. Putting that to work, taking the best from both sides. I want to be really careful that we don't end up in an agile-only world. I think we throw the baby out with the bathwater if we don't remember what was so good about some of the more traditional project management methods. And then just like my panelist is saying, just get on with it. Try a qualification because most of the fundamentals are common sense. And most of these qualifications are based on common sense, and then gain your own experience and then build on more further levels of qualification as you gain more experience. But experience beats everything.
Absolutely right. I would certainly echo that. And I think this is a borrowed phrase from somebody else, but I often say it. It's really hard to learn to juggle just from a book. You can get the principles, but at some point you actually have to pick up those little sacks of beans and start throwing them up in the air and progress to having one more sack of beans than you have hands. And at that point, you can say, yes, I'm beginning to juggle. By the way, I would recommend, as Christina and the rest of the panel do, that you start with little sacks of beans and not chainsaws. And the same is true on projects. Start by joining in, volunteering, shadowing, being coached and mentored, being supported, yeah? And then you will really learn how to do it very, very well. Thank you, Christina. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Let's hear from Mark, if we may, and then we'll go to Bina.
Yeah, certainly echo everything, but I would come off of Christina. I would agree and add another flavor to experience versus certification, and that is certification versus education. There are a lot of certifications right now that a number of my mentees are working very hard to get. They get the certification because it's book work. There's no practicum and no experience required. And even the requirement for experience to take the test is becoming diluted in definition as to what constitutes a project work. So really think about what it is you want to get out of that certification. Is it because, again, everyone else is doing it, or because you need the education as well? Or do you need both? I think that's going to drive you into different certifications. Different programs and different frameworks. I think that's really the key there.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Totally agree. And Bina, final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, as an associate trainer, I do deliver a few project management certifications, and what I see is that people are sent on these courses maybe because their organization has already adopted a method and they need to learn it, or they're going to be the first person that's going to be implementing it. But the real learning happens after they've done the certification, because that's when they need to go back and start implementing, start putting things into place and see how it actually works. So yes, you can do a certification, but you've got to, as the other panelists have said, you've got to put it into practice. You've got to gain experience. You've got to look at what are the quick wins, because you're not suddenly going to be able to do everything, by the book straight away. So it will take time. Certifications and whatever method you use do give you some good ideas, do give you structure, so it does help if you think, I don't know where to start. But as I said, the real learning comes in when you actually start implementing it. So, if your organization has already adopted a method, then look at what they're already doing, what have they implemented, and that will give you a guide. But the other thing is, it's not just about gaining a certification, it's about the people skills. You still need to be able to communicate, you still need to be able to delegate, and work with people. So that is on top of the certification. Just because you got a certification doesn't mean that you're a project manager straight away. There are other skills that are important, and it will take time for you to develop those as well.
Absolutely right. It's the kind of situation, I think, when when you see very young children playing a team sport, wherever the ball is, the entire team, both teams are often clustered around the ball or the ice hockey puck, and so on. Nobody's actually thinking strategically and spreading themselves out and working as a team in order to be able to, improve the team performance. It's very much the same, I think, when we think about working on projects. Enthusiasm is great, but actually having a little bit of structure and a kind of methodology behind it, saying, okay, look, not everybody needs to, be right in this meeting. Some people actually need to be preparing for what happens next. Yep, and working in that way. So really good. Thank you so much, panel. I'm really enjoying today's thinking about how to progress your career as a project manager. Now, if you're in the audience, then it's you who are the producers for the show, of course. So don't forget to submit your question in, and Ella, who is in the social chat, will pick it up. Just type it in as a comment into the chat. She'll pick it up and bring it into the panel to be able to answer on your behalf. So do get those questions in as we're starting to move ahead, and we may run out of time. Who knows? Charlotte, on that note, let's press on. We'll take our next question to the panel, please.
Thanks, Nick. We do have a live question that's been submitted by Robert Snyder. And Robert Snyder asks, within the field of project management, what topics are being discussed too much and what topics are not discussed enough?
Well, there you go. It's the kind of thing, isn't it, where, I would say straight off, when I was consulting, there wasn't a single project where people didn't come back to the practice meetings and say, oh, my project's really political. Okay. Everybody said, oh, my project is really political, as a kind of a segue into describing some of its complexity and, sharing lessons learned and that kind of thing. Bina, what are your thoughts? What are the topics that are perhaps discussed a little too frequently and those which are overlooked?
I think it depends who you listen to be honest, or what you listen to actually is subjective. I mean, there's obviously a lot about AI in project management. Now, whether you think there's too much of that, that's up to you. But that is something that is a hot topic. So you might find content that's about that, and you think, okay, this is what I want to listen to. But you might not be looking at content to do with people skills or neuroscience. All the other aspects as well. So it really depends on what you decide to choose, really. I don't know if there's too much or not enough of something. I think it's a personal choice.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Bina. Wijnand, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with Bina that it is, it's in the eye of the beholder, What I do think is that there has been a very big hype in whether or not you are doing project management in agile environments or not. And I think it's a heightened discussion, because there's no such thing as a right way or a wrong way of doing things. You are just choosing the things that are actually necessary to get the job done. Things like risk management, things like the normal way of doing planning. If you look at the team, a team will probably say, okay, this planning is rubbish. Whereas the project management manager will say, well, I have talked with you about those planning, and you never discussed it, so it's a good one. So I think Bina is correct in saying, okay, people skills, looking at your team, looking at what they need, that is something that needs to be discussed in project management theory more and more, because that is actually not all the time in there. It's mostly how do I organize things, but not how do I get things done.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you very much indeed, Wijnand. That brings us into the practicality of delivering better value, creating that value, manifesting that value through the delivery of projects. So thank you very much indeed. Mark, your thoughts, then we're going to go to Darrel.
Yeah, two quick ones. I'll do the not enough first, because the second one I think will be like a grenade in the room. The first one is there's not enough about emotional intelligence right now. I'm starting to see more and more. But I think, as was said earlier, it's about leadership skills. It's about listening. It's about empathy. It's all those things that come with emotional intelligence that I just love to see. I'm seeing some more, but certainly not enough. And then the grenade in the room is the old agile, traditional, adaptive. There's just too much. We just do project management, please. Can we just do project management and not worry that what I used to call iterative is now adaptive? Enough.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. It is something that if you kind of read LinkedIn, and if you're in a number of project management communities on LinkedIn, you would imagine that there's some kind of, all-out tribal battle, kind of going on. Whereas in reality, I think you're absolutely right, Mark. The kind of it depends technique works very well in project management, doesn't it? And you select the right approaches for the right project, and you work in that way. And thank you so much, Darrel. Final thoughts on this one?
We've touched on it already. The agile wave, the agile hype. I think that the message that I'd like to give project managers is don't fight whatever discipline your organization has decided to take and run with. They're trying to be able to create a single or a standard way of delivering and reporting up to the executives, and they've chosen something new. So get on board immediately. If you're a project manager, don't go, oh my goodness, they've chosen the wrong one, or don't they know the difference? As Mark said, we're just delivering projects. Get on board, be that champion for the new structure, and just figure out how to get things done. And then the second part, we're not talking about enough and giving enough guidance, and we have yet to really talk about it here. Trying to deliver projects in a remote or hybrid world is tough. Part of my success early in my career is being able to just get people in the room, lock the door, throw some Cokes under the door, and tell them they don't get to come out until they've solved the problem. It is impossible to do that same approach now. So how and who's been successful on getting the hybrid project team able to get that team building by locking them in a room, and they come out on the same side, fighting, pointing their guns out to deliver the project versus trying to prove who's better in that room?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really good advice. And perhaps, to kind of sit alongside that, thank you, panel, might be one of the quiet topics which is overlooked. I think Mark talked about, the emotional intelligence and things. A technique for everybody to consider is how good are we at facilitating ourselves in the project management community, unblocking blockages and moving things forward and so on are considered pretty much home turf for project managers. But how do you do that exactly? What are the tools and techniques that you might use to bring people who were previously pointing fingers at each other into walking and working side by side in the same direction? And also, how do you go about actually facilitating consensus from what was previously quite opposed opinions? It's something that needs to be considered, perhaps, and thought of. So thank you so much, Robert. As ever, a thoughtful question base for the panel today. We really appreciate that. Charlotte, if we can, we'll move on with our next question, please.
Thanks, Nick. Well, our next question is from our amazing panelist, Bina. Bina asks, what skills are in demand from a project manager in 2024?
All right. So where do you see the kind of leading edge of the skill base moving to in a contemporary world around project management? If you were hiring at this point, Christina, or if you're following, the job opportunities that are online, what are the kinds of skills that you believe are in demand? Start us off.
Mm-hmm. Probably none of the skills that are actually in the job adverts. I want to echo one of my former panelists, the emotional intelligence. But also, one of the things that some project models have gotten a little bit wrong, I'm going to try not to be too critical here, is that a lot of the tools and methods they propose are about reducing uncertainty and shutting out chaos. I think what the last 5 years or maybe 4 since COVID has taught us is that crisis is the new normal. This thing about it'll be over in a second, it won't. There'll be another. We got COVID, Ukraine, Russia. We have climate. It's just going to be ongoing. So crisis is the new normal. So therefore, a project manager who's able to have enough of a stomach for going from, one day you don't know what the hell is going on to the next day you got it all, and being able to change between those two without panicking is a crucial skill for project managers in 2024. I don't know how to exactly express that in a job description. It will actually depend on the interview. That's how I hire project managers. It's all about how they express that dilemma in an interview. That's what I'm looking for. It's almost impossible to gauge from a resume.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much, Christina. Great insight. We really appreciate it. Wijnand, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Mark.
Well, I agree with that. Don't put that in a job description, because you just need to know how somebody reacts under pressure. So get him under pressure. So keeping your cool, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of what happens in your organization when you are going to change things. Most of the project management methodologies that I have seen come and go, the project managers that I've seen perform, they just create the product, throw it over the wall and say, okay, I'm finished. Bye. Well, that is something that doesn't work. If you make a product, first your team needs to work together. So you need to get them to work together. Hybrid project management, working at a distance, working from home, all those things you need to be able to control that and be able to get people working on that and be enthusiastic on that. And for that, you need to be enthusiastic yourself. If you don't share your view, don't share your knowledge, if you don't share your enthusiasm, you probably won't get a team that will work with you and get the job done. So, and then you need to be aware that your organization, the customer, is very important too and needs to get your product from your project, needs to get it working in their organization. So help them with that. Don't say it's not my concern. No, you need to be able to help them, get along with them, prepare them for all the chaos that is coming.
Thank you so much indeed. It's a much discussed topic before a project begins. What are the benefits going to be? What is the business case going to be? And yet the benefits and the value back to the business are usually realized during and definitely post project, wherever you kind of scope the end of the project to be, if you like. Usually they are following along in time. So if they are never realized, if they're never spoken about, towards the end of a project life cycle, and the measurement doesn't continue and happen and so on, how can you possibly justify going back for more in the future? So it's something that we should think about a great deal more, I think. So thank you very much indeed, Wijnand. Mark, your thoughts, please, on this one.
Absolutely. This hits my home spot, and it's what I wrote about in the book recently, which is, let's start with empathy as a skill. Let's consider that as important as anything else, which leads, of course, to your emotional intelligence, which then, from a hard skill, we start talking change management. And while we're very much do you need a separate change manager or not, which has been a question in a previous panel. I'm one that says, if you have a change manager, great. If you don't, you got to be the change manager on the project. And then ultimately that change manager is looking for the value, right? I mean, that's what's that vision? What's that shared vision that you're trying to go to?
Thank you so much indeed. Now, Bina, you raised this question on behalf of everybody. So I think it's only fair that we come to you. What are your thoughts on the question itself.
Well, I think that my fellow panelists have all mentioned some really, really good points, focusing on personal skills, people skills, EQ, empathy, all those kind of things are very, very valid. And I think other things that PM should think about is how to communicate. There's different ways of communicating. It's not just about sending emails. You've got to be creative. You've got to understand people's requirements and things. So it's about being creative. It's about looking outside of your project, in that you're looking at the project context as well. You're looking at what's going on out in the outside world. You're thinking about Pestle, for example, or VUCA, whatever. What is going to affect this project? So you're not so closed in on your project, but you're also aware of the project context, what's going on outside. So it means that you have to have an awareness of the outside world. You have to have an awareness of why the organization is running the project, what they're hoping for. And then you've got a broader picture. So it's not being too narrow focused. It's being in connection with the business, with the outside world, with the stakeholders. And those are also skills. I keep mentioning people skills, but they're important as well. And maybe you need to have some skills about various tools that are coming out, whether you use them or not. They may help you managing the project. So it's about keep learning things and trying to improve, record your own lessons. So I guess there's skills as well. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Bina. One of the things that might be worthwhile considering, everybody, as well, is if we can go to the panel view, please, is just to have a little think about how are other people managing external stakeholders. And so there are some fantastic examples in the digital era of really interesting communication pieces that people are publishing on infrastructure projects and putting them on YouTube. So follow some of the large infrastructure projects that are being built around the world and see how are they keeping everybody up to date with the progress being made. And I know it's exciting seeing a tunnel boring machine just kind of, breaking through that final, couple of meters and, connecting up, and everybody's cheering. And there's quite a few people probably who are actually quite relieved the two tunnel boring machines met in the middle at roughly the right places. That's always encouraging, isn't it? But these sorts of pieces in a digital area for digital project managers, think about those communication skills that you might need. It might not just be your oratorial skills. It may also be, how do you construct communication pieces that can be consumed beyond the immediate project team and by the wider community? So just a thought there for you. Excellent. Very good panel. Thank you so much indeed. Well, time is kind of working against us a little bit. So Charlotte, I think we should go and hear our last question to the panel for today, please.
Not a problem, Nick. Our last question is from Beth in London. Can you recommend any project management committees that enable exchange of thoughts and experience, provide helpful templates, etc.?
All right. So communities of practice, communities online, communities in person via professional bodies, and so on. What are our thoughts? Which ones would you personally recommend? Bina, start us off, and then we'll hear from Wijnand.
Locally, I found a group called Agile Yorkshire, and I've been to 3 of their meetings. It's a local group, and it's fantastic because they have different people presenting. It's a bit of a networking opportunity, a social thing. So you can look locally and find out. And I found out about this group by Eventbrite. So there's lots of ways of finding easily accessible communities that you can join. Don't really cost you anything. So I would say look locally first of all.
Great idea. What a great inspiration that is. So Agile Yorkshire, I think was the name, which sounds really great. So I'm loving that. Thank you so much. Wijnand, do you go local? Do you go global? Do you go online? Do you go in person? Where do you start?
All of the above. So first of all, I started when I was working, for example, at Rabobank, I started my own community of project managers. Of course, I was head of the PMO, so that was a little bit easy to do because I knew all the project managers, but I wanted them to learn from each other. So I started it within my own company. So my advice is, if you don't have one in your organization or in your neighborhood or whatever, start one yourself. Next one, go and have a look at your best practice communities that you have. In the Netherlands, we have best practice a user group that provides insight in various best practice project management methodologies, program management methodologies. One of them that has its own community internally is a Praxis framework, as I mentioned before. But also Prince2 has its own communities worldwide. IPMA has their own communities worldwide. So those are excellent communities if you are just looking at one or two methodologies. Furthermore, if you're looking into project management in general, go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a huge amount of groups that have communities that can help you if you pose a question. I myself am active in a few groups of them myself, but I see a lot of questions coming in, a lot of very good answers on that, as well as the topics in your timeline that you can learn from. So yeah, it's all of the above for me.
Hey, thank you so much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Wijnand. And as the panel have been reinforcing, it's all about doing the doing and walking the walk. So do connect with others. And one of the things that you can do as a Level Up viewer is to connect directly with the panel ourselves. All of our biographies are available on the apmginternational.com website. And there's a little button that you can click on, and that will jump you to our LinkedIn profile so that you can send us a connection request. So please do feel free to do that. We have lots of people online in this panel who are experts at coaching, who may well have been there and done something, if not exactly the same, something very similar, and they may well have some real nuggets of knowledge and experience to be able to share. So do please reach out to them. I'm sure that everybody would welcome those connections. Let's hear our closing remarks then from the panel. So Bina, if I may, we'll start with you and then we'll hear from Darrel.
Well, I have to say, being a project manager is the best job in the world, but I'm biased because I think there's so much variety. But yes, we manage projects in everyday life. Think about what you do. Go ahead, try and be a project manager.
Excellent. Thank you so much indeed, Bina. Thank you for joining us today. Darrel and then Christina.
Yeah, thanks so much, panel. It's been an absolute pleasure and a treat. I think that I'd like to leave the audience with this understanding. At that executive table, your CFO knows that projects fail at greater than 75% of the time. And so it's your job to stand out and impress upon that person. How is my project going to be in the 20 to 25% that is successful? And it is so easy to get lost in scope, schedule, budget, quality, and all of the Gantt charts and the agile frameworks and the stand-ups, and miss having that moment of truth resonate for that manager. So find a coach and bounce off. How am I going to make a difference so that they believe this project with this manager is going to have a chance?
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Darrel. Some very wise words there indeed. And a great segue, I think, to a lot of your passion and your life's work, Christina, around improving outcomes of projects. Your closing remarks today, please, and then we'll hear Mark.
Yes, I want to thank APMG for inviting me to this panel. It's been a little bit of trip down memory lane that reminded me why I came into this profession. And looking back at my career, I don't think I regret a single moment, even with projects that didn't go so well. So I would recommend anybody to try this out. It's a very rewarding career path.
Absolutely. I could completely echo that. Agree with you wholeheartedly. Mark, your thoughts, please, and then we'll hear from Wijnand.
Yeah, I definitely so much appreciate the panel. And even more so appreciate the audience and participation, the great questions that came in. It is a passion for me. It's something that even into my now semi-retirement, I can't let go, as much to my wife's chagrin. I would say, find a mentor, find mentors, find people that are whether they're in the industry you want to be in or not, but find folks that can help guide you through your project management journey. Certainly, just a shameless plug. 9 other project managers and I put together a book called Executing Excellence: Actionable Insights from 10 Savvy Project Managers. And it is aimed exactly at folks wanting to come into the craft. And some of it's very much about hard skills, and a lot of it's about the soft skills that we talked about. So definitely those two areas I would push forward. And again, thank you, Nick and production team.
Yeah, thank you so much indeed. We'll try and get a link up to Executing Excellence for you momentarily. We've got a couple of things going on in the background. That's why we're a little bit late on parade with some of the links today. And Wijnand, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, well, of course, as always, I've learned a lot from my fellow panelists and enjoy the insights again. Thanks to the audience, because you've posed quite a few questions that were challenging and inspiring, actually. And I agree with Mark. You just go and have to do it and find somebody who helps you with it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because if you don't make any mistakes, you don't learn anything. So any mistakes you make are basis for your experience, and it will help you to progress in the job, in the role of project manager, and let people help you collaborate. Don't be afraid. The only stupid question is the one that you don't ask. Remember that.
It's a good point. It's a really good point, isn't it? I think when you're young and early career as a consultant, you imagine that the client is hiring you because you know the answers. When you become a senior consultant or a principal, you realize that actually the client is hiring you because you know how to ask a better question.
True. So true.
That's kind of my experience at any rate. So thank you very much indeed, Wijnand, and thank you, TD, for bringing up the Executing Excellence link. Let's hear from Charlotte. Another interesting episode today, Charlotte, of the role of the project manager and how to build a career around it. Your thoughts on today?
One thing I've learned today is that the project management world is enormous, absolutely massive. And there's so many different avenues, routes, opportunities that you can adopt or build a career around in project management. The scope it is massive. And whatever suits you the best, or your organization the best, I think is the way forward.
Very good. Thank you so much indeed. And thank you, everybody online, for all of your contributions today. We've had some really dialogue actually between different people. Ian has forgiven Adrian for his chaotic typing, and that's in Adrian's own language. So very good, really interesting conversations going on as part of the wider Level Up community. So thank you very much indeed. And on their behalf, panel, thank you so much for giving your time so generously today. We really do appreciate it. Now, over on the APMG website, you may, of course, search for answers to more than 2,300 previously asked and answered questions. It's totally free of charge, and it connects you with experts from all over the world and every industry and discipline. Don't forget that you may also listen to the audio versions of the shows on your preferred podcast platform. So just search for APMG International, level up your career, and you will find us pretty easily. Looking ahead, on Monday, the 3rd of June at 8 a.m. UK time, we're going to explore how to become a PPP specialist. That's all about the public-private partnership world. And of course, projects are very much closely associated with that. And before Friday the 7th at 2 p.m. UK time, it's all about why writing better business cases is so important in 2024. Now, there are some changes coming to Level Up. I just want to signpost this for everybody. We are looking, now that we've done 250 episodes twice a week over the last 3 years, we're looking to make some changes. So if you have some thoughts on that, don't be shy. Do let us know. Just get in touch with us. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment there. You're most welcome to do that. Or just ask us and we'll send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you too can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. And there'll be some links in that email discussion for you to be able to let us know what you would like to see from Level Up coming up in the future. So more on that in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, everybody, I do wish you a brilliant weekend. Thank you again to our panel and everybody online. Have a brilliant time, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye now.